Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, The Long Journey to Getting Revenge on a Terrible Boss. I used to work for a company called Bright Minds, owned by a couple, Carl and Sophia. They presented themselves as kind and supportive, but it soon became apparent that they were manipulative and dishonest. The company went through multiple changes, including a shift from a business services and public relations agency to an IT provider, then to a business incubator, and finally to an indie beer partner. These constant changes were a major red flag, and as an employee, I could sense that the business was on shaky ground. To make matters worse, Carl and Sophia refused to prioritize their employees, and we were often paid only a portion of our salaries. Many of us, including myself, felt trapped in our jobs with no other options, while the owners continued to spend lavishly on themselves. Despite the stress and frustration, I tried to stay positive and focus on my work. But as time passed, I realized that I needed to take action. I reached out to a friend who was skilled in computer programming and asked for their help in taking down our terrible bosses. After some brainstorming, we came up with a plan. We would create a fake website, posing as an investment firm interested in working with Bright Minds. The website would be complete with a matching LinkedIn page and all the necessary details to make it appear legitimate. We carefully crafted an email inquiring about Carl and Sophia's business and expressed our interest in working with them. Within a few days, we received a response from Carl, who was eager to meet with us and discuss his ambitious projects. At the meeting, we posed as representatives from the fake investment firm and asked for proof of concept, payroll information, and other details. Carl and Sophia were so excited at the prospect of working with us that they willingly handed over all the information we asked for. Using this information, we were able to transfer the money we were owed directly into our accounts, effectively getting paid for the 2.5 months of incomplete wages. We were thrilled that our plan had worked and relieved to finally be free from the toxic environment. But our journey didn't end there. A few weeks later, we received news that Carl and Sophia's business had collapsed. It turned out that they had been relying heavily on the money they received from our fake investors to keep their business afloat, and without it, they were forced to shut down. At first, I felt guilty about the impact that our actions had on their lives. But then I remembered how they had treated their employees, and all the lies they had told. It was satisfying to know that we had given them a taste of their own medicine and brought them to justice. As time went on, I moved on to a new job, feeling grateful for the opportunity to start fresh. However, I remained cautious and always made sure to research potential employers thoroughly before accepting any job offers. Years later, I received an unexpected email from Carl. In the email, he apologized for his past behavior and explained that he had undergone a transformation in his life. He had gone through a difficult divorce and lost everything, including his business. This humbling experience had made him realize the error of his ways, and he wanted to make amends. I was surprised by the email and wasn't sure how to respond at first. But after some thought, I decided to give Carl the benefit of the doubt and agreed to meet with him. In our meeting, Carl was sincere and genuine, and I could tell that he had truly changed. He even offered me a job at his new business, which was focused on helping underprivileged communities. After much consideration, I decided to accept his offer. It wasn't easy to let go of the past, but I knew that I could use this opportunity to not only heal from the pain that Carl and Sophia caused me in the past, but also to make a difference in people's lives. Working for Carl's new business felt like a chance to make up for the wrongs of the past and to use my skills to help those in need. As I started working for the new business, I found myself impressed by Carl's dedication and commitment to making a positive impact. His new business was focused on helping underprivileged communities by providing them with access to education and job opportunities. I was amazed by the work they were doing and felt proud to be a part of it. Despite my initial hesitation, I found that working with Carl was a positive experience. He had truly transformed, and it was clear that he had learned from his mistakes. I was able to forgive him for his past behavior and was grateful for the opportunity to help make a difference. As time went on, I continued to work for the business and saw firsthand the impact that it was having on people's lives. It was a rewarding experience, and I was proud to be a part of such a great cause. However, our journey didn't end there. One day we received news that Carl's ex-wife, Sophia, was attempting to start a new business, despite having a poor track record in the past. I was worried that she would repeat the same mistakes that she had made at Bright Minds, and I knew that we needed to take action to prevent this from happening. I reached out to Carl, and we decided to work together to create a plan to stop Sophia from causing any harm. We knew that we needed to act quickly, as she had already begun to gain traction with her new venture. After careful consideration, we decided to reach out to her potential clients and warn them about Sophia's past behavior. We also decided to release a statement to the press, exposing her unethical practices and warning others to be cautious when dealing with her. Our actions proved to be effective, and Sophia's business never took off. She eventually gave up on her new venture, and we were able to prevent her from causing any more harm. In the end, our journey had taken us from a toxic work environment to a place where we were making a positive impact on people's lives. It was a long and difficult journey, but it was one that I was proud to have taken. It taught me the importance of standing up for what is right and never compromising my values. In my opinion, this story was a roller coaster of emotions. It was frustrating to read about the terrible bosses who treated their employees poorly and spent lavishly on themselves. But I was thrilled when the protagonist found a way to get revenge and get paid for the wages they were owed. It was satisfying to see justice served when the business eventually collapsed. And the unexpected twist at the end, where the protagonist forgave their former boss and worked together to make a positive impact, was heartwarming. The next story is titled, Betrayed by a Neighbor, I Set a Trap for Revenge and Justice and Uncover a Bigger Scandal. 4 years ago, my fiancé and I were just starting our lives together. We had bought a beautiful new house and a brand new car, and we were both working hard to make payments on our loan. We knew it was going to be a challenge, but we were determined to make it work. We decided to hire a cleaning service to help keep our home tidy while we both worked long hours. We did our research and found a local couple who ran their own cleaning service. They were friendly, and we heard great things about them from our neighbors, so we decided to hire them. At first, everything was perfect. Our neighbor, who did most of the cleaning, was thorough and efficient, and our home was spotless. We paid her promptly every week, and we even left a generous tip to show our appreciation. But then, things started to disappear. It started small with some batteries and a few candles, but then it escalated to bigger items like shoes, jewelry, and electronics. We were suspicious, but we didn't want to jump to conclusions. We decided to install security cameras to see if our neighbor was really stealing from us. It took 2 weeks, but we finally caught her in the act. She was taking our belongings and stuffing them into her pockets and bag. We were stunned and angry. How could someone we trusted do something like this? We could have pressed charges right away, but I wanted more. I wanted to catch her in the act again and get even more evidence against her. So I set a trap. I told our neighbor that we were going on a vacation and leaving our car at home. I put a GPS tracker on the car and waited for her to make her move. And boy, did she make a move. The next day, I received a notification from the GPS tracker that our car was on the move. I watched in horror as our neighbor drove recklessly down the highway. I called the police and reported the theft. They caught her a short time later and took her into custody. We pressed charges, and she was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to pay a $10,000 fine. But that wasn't the end of the story. After the trial, I started to do some digging. I wanted to know how our neighbor could have done this to us, and if there were other victims. That's when I discovered a bigger scandal. Our neighbor's husband, who did the finances for the cleaning service, was using the business as a front for a larger criminal operation. They were stealing from their clients and selling the stolen items on the black market. I contacted the police and shared all the evidence I had gathered. They conducted a thorough investigation and uncovered a network of thieves operating in our community. Thanks to our efforts, the criminals were arrested and charged with multiple counts of grand theft. The cleaning service was shut down, and our community was safer as a result. I felt proud of what we had accomplished, and grateful that we were able to expose the truth. Years have passed since then, and my fiancé and I are now happily married. We still live in the same house, but we've learned to be more cautious about who we trust. We never could have imagined that our lives would be impacted by a neighbor, but we learned that you can never be too careful. In my opinion, this story was both shocking and satisfying at the same time. It's crazy to think that someone you trust with your home and belongings could betray you like that. But it's also inspiring to see how the protagonist didn't just settle for pressing charges, but went above and beyond to expose a larger criminal operation. It just goes to show that you can never be too careful, and it's important to trust your instincts when something feels off. Overall, it was a thrilling read that kept me hooked until the very end. The next story is titled, Dealing with Inconsiderate Neighbors. Living in a peaceful and quiet neighborhood is something we all dream of, but sometimes that dream can quickly turn into a nightmare. This was the case for me when I moved into a new apartment, and my neighbors started renovating their place in the middle of the night, making it impossible for me to get any sleep. At first, I tried to ignore the noise, thinking that it would only last a few days. However, as the days turned into weeks, my frustration grew. I couldn't focus on my work, and my health started to suffer. I knew I had to do something. I decided to approach my neighbors and politely ask them to stop the construction at night. However, they were not receptive to my request and dismissed me, saying that they had every right to renovate their apartment at any time. Feeling defeated, I decided to seek help from the local authorities. I contacted the police and filed a complaint about the noise pollution caused by my neighbors. The officers came to their apartment and asked them to stop the construction work at night. For a few days, things got better, and I was able to get some sleep. However, my neighbors soon resumed their construction work in the middle of the night, and I was back to square one. I decided to take matters into my own hands and started documenting the noise pollution caused by my neighbors. I kept a log of the dates and times when the construction work started, the duration of the noise, and how loud it was. I then contacted the housing association and presented them with the evidence I had collected. They were sympathetic to my situation and promised to take action. After several weeks of investigation, the housing association served my neighbors with a notice to cease the construction work at night or face legal action. This finally got my neighbors' attention, and they agreed to stop the construction work at night. I was relieved and finally able to get some sleep, but that was not the end of the story. A few months later, I received a letter from my neighbors apologizing for their behavior and the inconvenience they had caused me. They explained that they were going through a difficult time and that the construction work was a way to cope with their stress. They promised to never do anything like that again and invited me over for dinner as a gesture of goodwill. I accepted their invitation, and we sat down to a lovely meal where we talked about our lives and got to know each other better. It was a great bonding experience, and we became good friends. From then on, we respected each other's space and made sure to keep the noise levels down. Update. A year after the incident, my neighbors moved to a new place, and we said our goodbyes. However, we still keep in touch and meet up for dinner from time to time. I learned that sometimes a little patience and persistence can go a long way in resolving conflicts, and that forgiveness and understanding can bring people closer together. In my opinion, this story is a great reminder that communication is key when it comes to dealing with inconsiderate neighbors. It's easy to get frustrated and want to take revenge, but sometimes taking the time to talk things out can lead to a much better outcome. It was inspiring to see how the protagonist used persistence and patience to resolve the situation, and even managed to become friends with their once annoying neighbors. It's a good lesson that forgiveness and understanding can go a long way in building better relationships within a community. The next story is titled, My Ex-Partner Showed Up at My Wedding When They Knew They Were Unwelcome. It was a beautiful day for an outdoor wedding. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the love of my life was waiting for me at the end of the aisle. Everything was perfect until my ex-partner showed up, uninvited and causing chaos. To understand how this happened, I need to take you back to the beginning of our relationship. My ex and I had been together for 3 years, and at first everything was wonderful. We had fun, traveled, and dreamed about our future together. But then, things started to change. My ex became controlling, jealous, and emotionally abusive. They would criticize me, belittle me, and try to isolate me from my friends and family. I tried to leave several times, but they always managed to convince me to stay. I was trapped in a toxic cycle that I couldn't break. Finally, I had enough. I left my ex and moved on with my life. It wasn't easy, but with the support of my loved ones, I started to heal. I even met someone new, and we fell in love. Fast forward to my wedding day. I was getting ready with my bridesmaids when I received a call from one of my guests. They said that my ex-partner was at the venue, causing a scene and demanding to be let in. I was in shock. How could they do this to me on the happiest day of my life? I rushed to the entrance where my ex was being held back by security. They were yelling and screaming, trying to get past the guards to get to me. It was humiliating, and I could see the judgmental looks on my guests' faces. I took a deep breath and walked over to them. I tried to reason with them, telling them that they weren't welcome and that they needed to leave, but they wouldn't listen. They just kept screaming and causing a scene. That's when my new spouse stepped in. They stood between me and my ex, protecting me from their abuse. They told my ex to leave and threatened to call the police if they didn't. Finally, my ex relented and left, but not before causing a huge commotion. The rest of the day was a blur. I was so shaken up by what had happened that I could barely enjoy the rest of the wedding. My ex had ruined what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but things got worse. A few weeks after the wedding, I started receiving threatening messages from my ex. They said that they weren't done with me, and that they would do whatever it takes to get me back. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I went to the police and got a restraining order, but that only seemed to make my ex more angry. They started showing up at my workplace and leaving threatening notes on my car. I was living in constant fear, never knowing when they would strike next. It wasn't until I started therapy that I began to heal. I learned how to set boundaries and protect myself from toxic people like my ex. I started to feel safe again, and I even met new friends who helped me move on from my past. Years passed, and I thought that I had finally put my ex behind me. But then, out of nowhere, they showed up again. This time, it wasn't at a wedding, but at my workplace. They walked right in, pretending to be a customer, and started causing a scene. I tried to ignore them and go about my business, but they followed me around, yelling and screaming. I was terrified that they would hurt me, or worse, hurt my coworkers. I quickly called the police, but my ex managed to slip away before they arrived. I was left feeling violated and scared all over again. I couldn't believe that after all these years, my ex still had the power to make me feel so helpless. The next few weeks were a blur. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, afraid that my ex would show up again. I started having panic attacks and had to take time off work to focus on my mental health. But then, something amazing happened. I received a message from one of my ex's old friends. They said that my ex had finally sought help for their abusive behavior and was genuinely sorry for everything they had done to me. They even wanted to apologize in person. At first, I was skeptical. I had been hurt too many times before to believe that my ex had truly changed. But after a few conversations, I started to see that they were sincere. They had gone to therapy, attended anger management classes, and had even reached out to their past victims to apologize and make amends. So I agreed to meet with them. It was a difficult conversation, but we both spoke honestly and openly about what had happened in our relationship. My ex took responsibility for their actions, and I could tell that they were truly remorseful. We didn't become friends, but we did find a way to forgive each other and move on. It was a long and difficult process, but it was worth it. I finally felt like I could put my past behind me and start a new chapter in my life. As for my ex's appearance at my wedding, it was a painful reminder of everything that had happened between us. But it also showed me how far I had come since then. I was no longer the scared and helpless person that my ex had tried to control. I was strong, independent, and surrounded by people who loved and supported me. I still have moments where I'm triggered by my past, but I know that I have the tools and resources to deal with them. I'm grateful for everything that has happened in my life, even the painful parts, because they have made me who I am today. Update. It's been several years since my ex showed up at my wedding, and I'm happy to say that I've moved on completely. I'm now happily married to my spouse, and we have a beautiful family together. I've also started working as an advocate for survivors of domestic abuse, using my experience to help others who are going through what I went through. I'm grateful for the chance to turn my pain into something positive and to help others find their own strength and healing. In my opinion, this story was a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit. It's incredible to see how the protagonist was able to overcome such a traumatic experience and move on to create a happy and fulfilling life for themselves. It's also heartening to see how their ex was able to seek help and take responsibility for their past actions. Overall, this story is a testament to the power of forgiveness, healing, and the importance of seeking help when we need it. The last story is titled, No, Mom, Dad, Younger Brother, and Aunt. I'll keep on doing my little tradition. I, 27F, had an older brother, 25M, who died in 2014. He was the older brother any girl wanted, and we were close. He taught me valuable lessons in life, such as cooking, driving, and never giving up. He showed me anime manga and would go on little road trips, and we would flat out ignore our parents' favoritism with my younger brother. Sadly, he died when a shooting happened. He was not a criminal. He was only eating when it happened, and there was an investigation. The police found he was not involved in any illegal activity. He was only 25, and I was 19 in 2014. I would lie if I said that I didn't fall into a deep depression. It came to the point where I stopped eating and lost around 55 pounds in a month and a half after his passing. I only drank water and milk that would fill me up. I didn't want to get better until one day my former sister-in-law called me to tell me that he left me some things. I met up with her, and the stuff he left behind was an album with Polaroid pictures of our crazy adventures, graphic anime tees, and a chain with both of our initials. I was in tears and decided to get help because he would love to see me happy and not die of sadness. It's been years since his passing, and I am doing a lot better, and I have a tradition that on his birthday I would leave flowers on his grave. I only stay 2 minutes, then leave after singing him happy birthday. My therapist said this was a good idea. However, my parents, 50M and 59F, younger brother, 22M, and aunt, 52F, decided to have an intervention thinking religiously that I was doing something satanic, that I was calling out the dead, that they should have thrown the things he left me in the garbage, and that I should attend their church to see if the Lord gets those diabolical ideas out of my head. I was shocked and told them that I won't stop doing this tradition, and I won't be attending their church. This is their older son, and if they keep behaving like this, I won't feel bad at all for having to go NC, no contact with them. They kept yelling at me, and my aunt went as far as to throw holy water at me. I had enough, and told them that when they stop being religious nuts, we'll talk. But as of today, I want nothing to do with them. I left before any of them could say anything, and it's been a week since the incident, and I have blocked their numbers. I just saved myself from toxic family members, and I won't go back there ever again. In my opinion, this is a heart-wrenching story that highlights the importance of keeping the memory of our loved ones alive. Losing someone close can be devastating, and it's heartening to see how the protagonist found solace in her brother's memories and traditions. However, it's sad to see how the rest of her family failed to understand her emotions, and instead resorted to religious dogma. It's a reminder that grief can be a deeply personal experience, and we should all strive to be more empathetic towards those who are going through it. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.